Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive into the tech world. Today, we're going to be dissecting a recent Bloomberg technology episode.
And let me tell you, it's a wild one.
Oh, absolutely. It's packed with all sorts of crazy stories about, well, everything from chip wars to AI showdowns.
Yeah, buckle up, folks. This is going to be a ride.
So let's start with the chip drama. Intel stock, went on a tear recently, like a 10% jump in just one day.
Oh, yeah, and a 20% surge the week before that. That's not just, normal market stuff.
Definitely not. So what's going on there?
Well, the rumor mill is churning with talk about potential deals with, get this, TSMC and Broadcom.
Whoa, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking big moves.
Big enough that they might actually split Intel, into separate companies.
Split Intel. That's huge. But why would they even think about doing that?
Well, you gotta remember Intel's chip-making plants, those are actually operating at a loss right now.
Oof, yeah, that's not good.
Not sustainable at all. So bringing in TSMC, the world leader in chip-making, could be their way to, turn things around.
So bringing in the A-team to fix things.
Exactly. Plus, there's this whole geopolitical angle, too. Remember how the U.S. government's pushing for more chips to be made domestically?
Right.
And Intel's got that massive factory they're building in Ohio. Having TSMC involved could, seriously boost that whole effort.
So it's not just about Intel. It's about, national interests, too.
Exactly. It's a big, complicated chess game. And the U.S. government has already hinted that they might, actually get involved.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, their stance on all this could be a major factor.
It's like a whole chip war is brewing.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, well, let's move from, chip wars to the AI arena. And this is where things get really interesting because we've got some unexpected players entering the game.
Right. It's not just the usual suspects like Google or Microsoft making waves anymore. Companies like IBM and Cisco, they're starting to make some serious noise and attracting investor attention.
Wait, IBM and Cisco. I feel like those are names I haven't heard in the AI conversation for a while.
I know, right? But they're back, and they're coming in strong.
So what are they doing that's, catching everyone's eye?
Well, Cisco, they just came out with a really positive revenue forecast.
Okay, so they're expecting to do well.
Yeah, and IBM is projecting some strong sales, too, especially for their AI infrastructure products.
Interesting. So investors are seeing them as, alternatives to the big guys.
Exactly. Bloomberg actually called the dominant tech giants the Mag 7, which I thought was pretty catchy.
Mag 7. I like that. So who are we talking about here?
The usual suspects, Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, NVIDIA, and Tesla.
Right, the big players.
But now investors are looking for other opportunities, especially those with strong dividends, which is where IBM and Cisco come in.
So are you thinking that maybe the market is a little bit overinvested in those Mag 7 companies?
It's possible. There's definitely a sense that, maybe we've gone a little overboard with the hype. Plus, AI isn't just about fancy algorithms anymore. The infrastructure, the actual hardware that makes all this AI stuff work, that's becoming more and more important.
And companies like Cisco and IBM are ready to, step in and provide that, right?
Exactly. They're in a good position to capitalize on that need.
Okay, well, from one battleground to another, let's talk about this Elon Musk versus OpenAI rivalry.
Oh, yeah. This one's got, all the drama you could ask for.
I mean, didn't Musk try to buy OpenAI back just days before launching his own AI model, Grok?
He did, just days before. And, of course, OpenAI said, nope.
What a power move, right. So now he's claiming Grok is the, quote, smartest AI on Earth, boasting about its advanced reasoning and smart search capabilities.
Right. But is it really all that?
I mean, it sounds impressive, but is it a game changer?
Well, one analyst, Mandeep Singh, he said that while Grok might, do well on those benchmark tests, it's not necessarily a revolutionary leap in AI.
So it's not just about being smart. It's about more than that.
Yeah. It's about how it's integrated, the user experience, the whole package. And Musk wants to integrate Grok with Twitter.
Oh, so give it access to, millions of users right away.
Exactly. But its success will depend on whether people actually pay for its premium features, The AI chatbot market, it's cutthroat. What's hot today might be old news tomorrow.
So the pressure is on for Grok to be more than just hype.
For sure.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about something that's, well, as crucial as it is complex. AI ethics.
Yeah, it's a big one. And there's a noticeable shift happening in how companies and even governments are approaching it, especially when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, in AI development.
Okay, so what are we seeing specifically?
Well, some companies, taking cues from, the previous administration, are scaling back their DEI programs. Some are even eliminating them completely.
Interesting. But does that mean they're giving up on DEI altogether?
That's a good question. Joelle Emerson, she's the CEO of Paradigm, a company that helps businesses build inclusive cultures. She actually argues that this shift isn't a rollback of DEI, but more of an evolution.
An evolution. So what does that look like in practice?
Well, she thinks companies are moving away from those, what some might call like performative actions that don't really create any meaningful change.
So less about checking boxes and more about actual impact.
Exactly. It's about like building inclusive cultures for everyone, going beyond just, saying the right things and actually creating workplaces where everybody feels valued.
I can see that. But does moving away from terms like DEI, doesn't that send the wrong message?
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
Right.
Some people are worried it'll make it harder to attract diverse talent and build truly inclusive workplaces. But on the other hand, Emerson argues that a lot of DEI practices are universally beneficial.
Right.
They promote fairness, and lead to better business outcomes for everyone.
So it's a complex issue with valid points on both sides.
It really raises the question of whether the free market can handle this on its own, or if we need more proactive measures to ensure diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, it's a debate that's not going away anytime soon.
It's true.
And speaking of OpenAI, there's another fascinating development with one of its co-founders, Ilya Sutskever.
Oh, yeah, he's causing quite a stir with his new startup. It's focused on something called safe superintelligence.
Safe superintelligence?
Yeah.
That's a pretty loaded term. What do we actually know about this company?
Not much, to be honest. It's all very hush-hush. But Sutskever is trying to raise over $1 billion, which would put the company's value at, get this, over $30 billion.
Wow, that's a massive valuation for a company that, as you said, is pretty secretive. What are investors seeing in this?
Well, Sutskever's got a big reputation. He's considered one of the top minds in AI, and some people see this as like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to invest in a visionary.
So they're betting on the person, not necessarily the product?
Pretty much. But of course, there are skeptics.
Oh, I bet.
Some people are calling it froth, like there's too much hype and not enough substance. And it's true, the company doesn't have any revenue, no product yet, and their mission is still kind of vague.
It's a high-stakes gamble, that's for sure.
It is, and it'll be interesting to see if Sutskever can actually deliver on this promise of safe superintelligence, or if this will be another example of, hype over reality.
Yeah, time will tell.
Yeah.
But it definitely highlights the immense faith some investors have in the potential of AI. They're willing to pour billions into the promise of future breakthroughs.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It really is.
Oh.
Okay, well, that's just a taste of what we're covering in this deep dive.
We've only just scratched the surface, from chip wars to AI showdowns and the always evolving landscape of AI ethics.
There's so much to unpack, and we'll be continuing our journey in the next part of our deep dive, so stay tuned for that.
Definitely.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into all things tech. We left off talking about some pretty big shakeups. Chip wars, AI, the whole shebang.
Yeah, and it's not just about, who's building the fastest chip or the most powerful AI. There's this whole other layer of, tension between pushing the boundaries and, thinking about safety and ethics.
That's a really good point. It feels like, honestly, the definition of safety in tech is, changing right before our eyes.
Totally. A few years back, the big fear was all about, those almost existential threats from AI, the whole robots taking over the world thing.
Right, like a Hollywood movie.
Exactly. But now it seems like the focus is shifting to more immediate and practical concerns.
So less Terminator, more like biased algorithms and jobs being replaced by robots.
Exactly. And even the language is changing. You see safety being replaced by security, and the emphasis is on, mitigating real-world harms rather than preventing some hypothetical doomsday scenario.
It's like AI is already having a huge impact on our lives, so it makes sense to focus on the ethical challenges that come with that, right?
Right. But this shift also makes you wonder, are we maybe losing sight of the bigger picture? Are we getting too comfortable with these increasingly powerful AI systems?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. AI is advancing so quickly. We have to make sure the ethical side keeps up.
Absolutely. We don't want to create a future where technology only benefits a few people, at the expense of everyone else.
For sure. It's a delicate balance.
Right.
Pushing innovation while also making sure AI is developed responsibly.
Mm-hmm.
And that responsibility, it's on all of us. Tech companies, governance, even individuals.
I agree. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about Supermicro. They've been making headlines with some pretty bold revenue projections.
Oh, yeah. Super micro.
Yeah.
They've had a bit of a roller coaster ride lately, haven't they? Their stock took a hit, but now they're projecting what, a 25% revenue increase?
Over 25%, yeah. Quite a comeback.
So what's driving this? Did they just get lucky? Or is there, a strategy at play here?
It's definitely not just luck. Supermicro, they're a key supplier to, all the big cloud providers.
Right.
And their servers and data center products, they're in high demand as companies move to the cloud.
So they're riding the cloud wave. But are they doing anything else to stand out? I mean, it's a competitive market.
They've been investing heavily in new tech, particularly AI. They've developed specialized hardware that can speed up AI processing, which gives them a real edge.
Smart move. And it seems like they're addressing those past concerns about transparency too, right?
Yeah.
Making sure they meet those NASDAQ deadlines for filing financial results.
Yeah, that transparency is definitely a positive sign, and it's probably helped their stock price. They're really trying to prove they're not just surviving, they're thriving.
It's a good story. Shows how companies that adapt and invest in the future can bounce back even after a setback.
For sure. Okay, now let's dive into a platform that's become like a battleground for AI chatbots. Chatbot Arena.
Chatbot Arena. I've heard of this. It's like the Coliseum for AI, right?
Exactly. Chatbots from different companies go head-to-head, and the crowd decides the winner.
So how does it actually work? Who decides who's the champion?
It's all based on crowdsourced feedback. Users interact with the chatbots, ask them questions, and then they vote on which one performs better.
It's like a popularity contest for AI. But seriously, that's a really cool approach.
Right. Instead of just relying on experts or techno benchmarks, they tap into the collective wisdom of the crowd.
I like it. But there's got to be some limitations, right? Like, how do you make sure the feedback is, objective?
Yeah, that's the tricky part. Crowdsourced feedback can be, subjective. What one person thinks is helpful, another person might find irrelevant or even offensive.
True. Plus, these AI chatbots are constantly learning and improving. So a model that is poorly today might be amazing tomorrow.
Exactly. So Chatbot Arena, it's a snapshot of where things are right now, but it's not the whole story.
It's a reminder that evaluating AI is a complex thing, and there's no, single right way to do it.
Right. Speaking of companies navigating the complex world of AI, let's talk about Meta. Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, all that.
Yeah, Meta. They've been on a roll lately. Their stock is up, 20%?
Over 20% during a record-breaking run. Quite a turnaround from where they were just a few months ago.
Yeah, they were facing a lot of heat, and their stock was taking a beating. What changed?
Well, a few things. They streamlined their operations, refocused on those core products, and really embraced AI. And, their metaverse push is generating a lot of buzz.
So it's like they adapted and bounced back?
Exactly. They stumbled, but they had the resources and the flexibility to change course.
It's a good reminder that even these tech giants, they can fall, but they can also get back up.
For sure. Okay, let's switch gears again and talk about cybersecurity. The stakes have never been higher, and one company that's really making a name for itself is Cato Networks. They provide cloud-based network security.
Cato Networks, yeah. I've heard of them. They're seeing a huge surge in demand, right?
Yeah, massive. Like a 46% jump in annual recurring revenue.
Yeah.
Businesses are definitely taking cybersecurity seriously these days.
And with good reason. All those cyber attacks, it's scary stuff. So what makes Cato Networks different? What are they doing that others aren't?
They have this unified platform approach. Instead of having a different tool for every single threat, which can be a nightmare to manage, they offer one platform that covers everything.
Makes sense. It's like trying to secure a house with a dozen different locks. It's just asking for trouble.
Exactly. And because it's cloud-based, they can provide those security services no matter where the user is located, which is huge with all the remote work happening these days.
Oh, for sure. Traditional security just doesn't cut it anymore. You need something flexible and adaptable.
Right. And Cato Networks, they're not just sitting back and relaxing. They're actively looking for ways to grow, both organically and through acquisitions. Their CEO, Shlomo Kramer, he's even hinted at a possible IPO soon.
Wow. So they've got big ambitions.
They do. It'll be fascinating to see what they do next. Okay, let's move on to another company that's making waves in the cybersecurity world, but with a bit of a different focus. Hugging Face. They're known for their work in open source AI development, but they're also really focused on the ethical side of things.
Hugging Face, yeah. That's an interesting combination. So how does an open source platform like that approach AI ethics?
Well, their chief ethics scientist, Dr. Margaret Mitchell, she's a leading voice in responsible AI development. She's been vocal about the potential downsides of AI if it's not developed carefully.
What kind of concerns is she talking about specifically?
Well, she's worried about, like, the concentration of power in the hands of a few big tech companies.
Right.
And also about AI worsening existing inequalities. She's really pushing for AI systems that are, fair, transparent, and accountable.
Transparency and accountability, that's crucial.
Yeah.
If we want AI to be a force for good, we have to be able to understand how it works and who's responsible for it.
Exactly. And Dr. Mitchell, she's also a big advocate for government regulation to ensure that AI is used responsibly and ethically.
That's interesting. We often hear about self-regulation in the tech industry, but it's important to consider the role of government too.
Definitely. Dr. Mitchell's work reminds us that just because we can develop a technology doesn't mean we should. We need to think about the ethical implications.
Okay, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's take a step back and look at some of the big themes we've covered.
Yeah, good idea. So the tech world, it's in constant flux. Innovation is happening at lightning speed.
It's like a roller coaster that never stops.
I know, right? But amidst all that chaos, some big trends are starting to emerge. The rise of AI, the demand for cybersecurity, the shift to the cloud, these are forces that are going to shape the future.
And as we navigate this crazy world, it's important to stay informed, stay curious, and keep asking those tough questions, right? Like, what are the real implications of these technologies? Who benefits? Who gets left behind?
Exactly. Those are the conversations we need to have.
Well, that wraps up the second part of our deep dive. Stay tuned for the final installment, where we'll explore some more insights and leave you with some food for thought. All right, welcome back for the final part of our deep dive. Man, we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we? Chip shortages, AI, cybersecurity.
It's been a whirlwind. One thing that strikes me is like all these contradictory forces at play in tech.
Totally. It's this constant back and forth between like pushing boundaries, innovating, and then being cautious, responsible.
Exactly. Like with the AI safety debate, right? The potential is huge, but so are the risks.
And it's the same in the chip industry. You need cutting edge performance, but you also need like secure supply chains.
Yeah.
It's a tough balance.
For sure. And it's not just about the tech itself, right? There's the whole social and political side too. Like with diversity and inclusion, companies are trying to do the right thing, but it's a sensitive and complex landscape.
It all comes back to like tech doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's shaped by the world around it.
Absolutely. Okay, we can't wrap this up without talking about, well, Elon Musk.
Yeah, you got to talk about Elon. Love him or hate him, he's everywhere. We talk about XAI, his rivalry with OpenAI, but what about Tesla?
Tesla. Pioneers in electric vehicles, but definitely had their bumps in the road, production delays, questions about their self-driving tech.
And some skepticism about their bigger claims, right? Like those robo-taxi ambitions.
Yeah. Carson Block from Muddy Waters, he's been pretty vocal about that. He even suggested that, like, Musk's recent political leanings, aligning himself with those who aren't so keen on the whole renewable energy transition, might reflect his own changing views on Tesla's future.
That's an interesting thought. Makes you wonder if Tesla's going to, like, actually live up to all the hype, or if it's always going to be more of a niche player.
It's a good reminder that even the most, visionary companies, they face real-world limits. Hype doesn't always equal success.
Totally. Okay, one last big question before we go. It's something that's kind of been in the background of all our discussions. The role of government in tech.
Oh, yeah. That's the big one. We've seen how governments can influence things through regulation, funding, even geopolitical stuff.
But how much involvement is too much? Where do you draw the line? That's the million-dollar question.
Some people say governments should, stay out of it, let the free market do its thing. Others say governments have a responsibility to make sure technology benefits everyone, even if it means putting some limits on companies.
It's a tough issue. No easy answers. And it's only going to get more important as tech keeps evolving.
It is. So here's a question for you to think about. In this world where AI is getting more powerful by the day, and the lines between opportunity and risk are getting blurrier, what role should governments play? What do you think?
That's a great question. And we encourage you to discuss it with your friends, family, colleagues. It's a conversation we all need to be having.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive.
Yeah, I think so too. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through the world of tech and AI.
It's been a pleasure.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep diving deep. Until next time.